Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your MC, Robbie Collins, and you're watching Comic-Con Africa 2020. Hope you guys have had a great day with myself and the guests from all around the world. We have one more interview for you guys. Firstly, I just want to thank my new friends, Kelly and Harvey. Next up, we are going to be moving to DJ Elliot, who's going to interview the man, Kevin Eastman.
Hey, that's right, Comic-Con Africa. How y'all doing? I'm back. I brought a friend of mine, Patty Hawkins. He's here. He's our moderator extraordinaire. And then also we have right down below us, Mr. Kevin Eastman. Hey, D, grab yourself some pizza, Comic-Con Africa, because our amazing guest is the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as an accomplished artist, writer, publisher, and Inkpot Award winner. We're going to try to squeeze in as much as we can about his tremendous body of work and some of his really upcoming, exciting projects. Conan, but we'll get to that at the end, absolutely. Again, please welcome Mr. Kevin Eastman. Woo!
Thank you, guys. So nice to be here.
Good to have you here, boss. Wow. So that's where the magic happens.
Yes, this is my studio. Pretty much, I'm living out a childhood dream every day. I get up and have my coffee and sit down here and draw comic books. I'm writing and drawing pretty much every day, and it's been. Let me see. I'm 58 now, so it's been a while. What a gift! I have the best life ever, thanks to the best fans ever. So
I'm not far behind you in that. What I'd love to do is real quick. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. You, like you said before, you started as a fan. I know you grew up as a fan of Kirby's 70s DC work. I heard Commandy was a particular favorite.
Yes.
Anthropomorphic animals. Geez, I wonder if that ever paid off for you.
No, I do think it's like that was, for both Peter Laird and myself, that was one of the things that we actually really bonded over when we first met, was our love and passion for Jack Kirby as a storyteller and an artist. And to me, I was at that age, because Pete's about 8 years older than I am, but I discovered Kirby, fully intensely in that DC period, and Commandy was particularly fascinating to me, not only because the first movie I ever saw in a theater was Planet of the Apes, and that was sort of, furtherance of that world. And the mutant animal aspect absolutely had 100% direct correlation to the creation of the Turtles, no doubt. So I loved it.
Absolutely, and it was out of his DC catalog, that was what lasted longest. So, absolutely. That. Was there anything else on the spinner rack that you saw and you said, "Oh, that's coming home"?
Well, when I was, pre sort of some of that, the Kirby stuff, I was collecting comics since, probably 9 or 10 years old, maybe a little bit younger, but it was, I really gravitated to the, I guess they call them more grounded superheroes, if you will. Like Daredevil was my all-time favorite. Captain America I liked very much. Batman, of course. It was sort of like the, Sherlock Holmes kind of characters that trained themselves and had the wherewithal to go out and be this vigilante character. But I like the more grounded ones the most. So
yeah, the street level ones.
Yes, they're good point. Yeah, good, well said.
Indeed. So we'll flash ahead a little bit, and you've spoken, of course, about your collaborations with your very famous partner. I'll just throw this out. I'm sure people have asked you time and time again, did you always know that Ninja Turtles was going to be as popular as it was? Let me rephrase that question, as I usually do this in other panels. When did the two of you realize that it was starting to eclipse expectations?
No, we knew it'd be a huge worldwide global hit from day one, for sure.
Okay, great. I knew it.
You knew it. See? No, the truth of the matter is both Pete and I were so passionate about wanting to be, Jack Kirby, or at least, follow in his footsteps to a certain level. That with the Turtles, so we sent out lots of samples and tried to get work here, there, and everywhere, and got lots of rejection letters. And so when we created the Turtles, we just said, look, this is kind of an idea we love a lot. Nobody else is going to like this, going to want to read it. So let's just write it for ourselves. We did early crowdfunding. We borrowed money from my uncle. And that's why the first issue was written as a, kind of beginning, middle, and end, black and white, 2-color cover because it was very affordable, and it was a single issue because we never thought there'd be a second issue. And so we just put everything we loved about comic books, all those years of sort of pent up fanboy geekdom, the things that we liked, we rolled it all into this one thing. And that was it. And we really thought we'd have them for many years to come, but the crazy thing happened and fans started buying them, and it's like, holy smokes, that's where things really started taking off.
It was the underground hit. It was the one thing that everybody was talking about and everybody wanted, but nobody could find. And to put it in historical context, in those days, there was the old days of the comic book shops. There was no internet. This was all word of mouth and some of the fanzines, really. And people just caught wind of it. Were walking to comic shops, say, "Do you have the Radioactive Turtles, that book that I've been hearing about?" No,
it's so true. In fact, we were quite surprised, because it came out early May of 1984, and like you said, there was the Comics Buyer's Guide, and there was a few other things, but it was all word of mouth. And even for me, discovery of certain underground publishers, which Dave Sim with Cerebus, Wendy and Richard Pini with ElfQuest, and even Flaming Carrot was an early self-published work. But I loved all the early Robert Crumb works and those things. So self-publishing was just a natural, but it was all word of mouth. And so we got a letter early, maybe June, from a fan from New York City, Larry Klein. We still keep in touch with him. And he said him and his father hunted down issue 1 and paid $25 for it. And we went like, what? $25 for a $1.50 comic? You guys are crazy. And that's sort of...
Which was a steal.
So to us, it was pretty mind blowing, and to further that, I used to have a summer job cooking on the coast of Maine. Maine's a very touristy place, and then that fall, Peter and I started work on issue 2. By request, fans kept writing letters, said, "Well, when are you going to do issue 2?" And by the time we got the initial orders in, which was January of '85 for issue 2, it was 15,000 copies. Issue 1 was 3,000 copies, and that was it. We said we think we can make enough money just drawing comic books based on this type of sales level. And if it lasted a month, a year, it was the greatest gift ever, because for that short period of time, we'd become Jack Kirby. We were drawing comics for a living. So that was the dream come true.
You really were. And credit to both of you, because the other side of that word of mouth was that, oh, well, it's like a satire stuff of Ronin and some other stuff. But the first issue I was able to pick up was the second printing of the second issue, and I was like, this is real. This is a real. There's humor in this, but the layout flowed artistically. It was extremely solid, and for something that I thought was meant to be maybe jokey, it was a lot of surprising seriousness to it. And when I finally found, I forget what reprint it was of the first one, I was truly blown away, and I was a hardcore fan ever since then. So again, kudos to both of you for sticking to your guns and sticking to your vision.
Again, we had we have a lot of fans like yourself to thank for that, because it was, again, like I said, the first issue was, we never thought there'd be a second issue, and so by issue 2, we really wanted to drift from, because number 1, issue 1 was definitely a parody in many ways, a very serious parody, but we wanted to sort of tell more original stories, and that's where we really had to figure it out, because Peter and I think the longest story we'd done individually, because we both write and draw, was probably I think I did a couple 8 or 10 page stories, lots of short stories for fanzines and things, 2 pages, 3 pages. And so here we are doing this 40-page book, and neither of us had drawn this much. So we were literally making a living while we were learning how to draw. And that's all the fans' fault. So thank you guys.
Hey, speaking of fans, we do have a fan question for you. And that's Grant Baisley. He says it's a sensitive question. He's like, do you have a favorite turtle? And if so, which one?
It's either Donato, Raffaello, or let me see, what's the other one? Matisse? It's a tough question, because even like if you see on the official turtle hat here, the first turtle drawn was Michelangelo, so it's sort of he's firstborn, so I sort of lean that way. But this was even before he was Michelangelo. It was just the first doodle. And so, you know, as the four were born together the same night, as this Michelangelo doodle, Peter and I really, or I feel the same. They're kind of like all of our kids, and we love them all dearly. And but you know, when pushed, they said, "Well, you have to choose one." And I go, "Well, firstborn, I guess. I don't know, just for no options." But it's funny because you know, the stereotypes of the personalities we built in the Turtles are very similar to the comics we loved. Again, Fantastic Four. You know, you had the comedic one, you had the gruff one, you had the hulking bruiser that's the guy you want on your side. You have the smart one. So we had some stereotypes that we love so much about comics that inspired us. But it's fun to tell individual stories with all of them. It's great that they can bicker like a family, but when they all come together, that's how they solve their problems. As they're stronger together than individually. And so that's the nice part of the Turtle family universe.
Excellent. And to go a little bit into the, to give people a historical context of the time, you guys did inadvertently create what was become known as the black and white explosion. And at the time, some people kind of roll their eyes, but my attitude looking back on that is always, I staunchly defend it because it opened up avenues. It showed that self-publishing could indeed be done. And there was a lot of good diamonds that sort of came out of that. Again, inspired by what you guys had done. So really, you moved the needle.
Well, it's, you know, it was one of those things because we used to kind of jokingly say it was like they called it that explosion. They called it the black and white boom and bust. And a lot of people blamed us for it. And they go like, but to us, you know, again, the inspiration of, you know, from, you know, some of my early submissions to comic book publishers, you know, I got sick of getting rejection letters from Marvel and DC, but, you know, my artwork wasn't that good, so I don't blame them. But I would submit to Last Gasp, which is an underground publisher, Kitchen Sink Press, Ripoff Press. There was so many of these underground black and white publishers, and Dave Sim was one of those guys in 1976 when he first published Cerebus, and Wendy and Richard Pini, like I mentioned earlier, around the same time. Those were the guys that were carrying it further down the field, and we sort of grabbed the baton and sort of went a little bit further. But the Turtles, I think, was one of those commercial successes that went a little crazy. But it was the comic book business was growing and being inspired by different kinds of content coming into it. So we were kind of the right place at the right time, and I think that was fun. But I think we, as a funny thing, I think we counted somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 21 adjective, noun titles. Like, you know, my favorite being adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, which was was quite funny, but it was, and they went straight for the jokey joke. Yeah. So they did, but you know, but Boris the Bear whacked them all. So yeah, there you go.
So you guys were the infant Turlebes though, because you were these guys literally working out of the kitchen, and it created this thing. At what point did people come knocking on the doors for, hey, we would like to make this with Turtles, like this with Turtles, and the Palladium and the role-playing games and that sort of stuff? At what point did Playmates come to the picture?
That's a great question, because it was relatively short in the scope of these kinds of things. You know, figured 1984 the first issue was published. By 1985, 1986, we were doing those. The first license was the Palladium role-playing games, which we just loved and adored. That's where so much of the Turtle expanded universe was developed to create other characters, you know, they could battle with. And it was around that time that a licensing agent who had seen, you know, was licensing Robotech to Palladium, saw the Turtles game and just said, "This is awesome." And that led to him approaching Playmates and Murakami Wolf for the cartoon. And he was the one that, under our approval, because that was something important to us back in those days. We, again, out of our love and respect for Jack Kirby and many other creators who created these wonderful concepts that we stand on the shoulders of these guys, never get a chance to either creatively participate or profit from their creations. So when we went into that world of toys, cartoons, and movies, we did it kind of in a cocky way, in that we were already making a living drawing comic books. So we said, we'll only do that if we have full control, full approval, and that's it. Or we don't need to do it. We don't need to do these things. And it was a lot of perfect storm kind of things came together, and we stood our ground, and we're very, very lucky that it worked that way, because that was a time when, you know, I remember telling my mom Turtles were going to be a cartoon, and I think she laughed so hard on the other end of the phone, she almost fell off her chair. She's like, sure they are. But until it showed up in the TV guide and actually showed up on air, I think then people said, you know, maybe he's not so crazy as we thought. So.
Wow, what did you get? Say, like, early videotapes of as it progressed, or was it just, okay, here's the pilot, tell us what you think?
No, we were honestly, we were 100%. We participated in every single part of the creation, including working off David Wise's. It was David Wise and Patty Howarth who wrote the original 5-episode concept, but Pete and I had input on every aspect. We had approval of the final treatments, approval of the final scripts. We actually flew out to LA a bunch of times and actually worked with some of the artists developing the look of the characters, including things like April's yellow jumpsuit and stuff like that. But we would see the rough cuts, we would see the storyboards, we would see the background designs, the sewer layer designs. In fact, it was Pete's idea, because one of the things that we came up against early on was how do you tell them apart? We said, you know, because they all had red bandanas in the early comic book days. So Pete's the one that actually came up with the idea for the different colored bandanas and things like that. So it was full participation, and up to and including Chuck Lorre's theme song, which, you know, he was just just starting out as he was doing, you know, jingles and and here's this guy comes up with this thing that later, you know, goes on to Big Bang Theory and all those other shows we love so much. But.
Yeah, well, it burned into the entire generation's brain, certainly. And I have to admit, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, all right. I was gonna say they haven't sold out, but I'll say this. I was like, this is meant for younger viewers, but this is about as perfect as a translation as you got from the tone that you had set in the comics to this. And again, I was remarkably gobsmacked, and again, absolutely kudos to both of you for, again, keeping the integrity of the characters.
Well, thank you. And again, it was a lot of luck by a couple pretty naive guys that just basically, we knew enough to be dangerous, I guess, but we wanted to protect the characters that we loved. And what's funny is, you know, the years have gone by, and even like, you know, this year, this was let's just show this, because this is our 2020 tour shirt, including, you see right here is here's all the tour dates that we missed, including Comic-Con Africa. We wish we were there. But you know, that was the thing that the most fans like most the fans from the early days that discovered the cartoons first, then later discovered the Mirage comic books, which I think around the time that, say, some of the younger fans that were starting to grow out of it, they found the more edgier, older comic books, and I think we sort of, just when they were getting out, we pulled them back in. And
that does raise a very good point, is that this whole thing has survived multiple generations and thrived and prospered. Just a new permutation, and we'll revamp it every couple of years, and a new generation of kids keeps coming back, and I kind of like the fact that every generation has their own sort of version they sort of claim as their own. So
no, it is amazing, because it does, you know, because I'm the first Batman episode, you know, the first Batman stuff I saw was the mid '60s, later '60s cartoon show, and then you sort of, because I was probably 5 or 6 years old before then discovering the Batman comics. But you look at the history of, you know, famous characters like that, it just seems like there's a handful that have really have become these evergreen, permanent parts of pop culture, and to be even remotely considered in that group, sort of the fringes, and the Turtles have now been around for 36 years, is just it's mind-blowing. You know, like you said, we've discovered, or another generation has discovered the Turtles, and much like when we were all kids, we decided what was cool, what was not cool, and the fact that there is another generation that sees something interesting in the Turtles after all these years is just it's humbling, to be honest. It's quite amazing. So
it's good. Moving on to the movies. First of all, I just found out about this very, very recently. Is there any truth to this insane story I read about Corman wanting to do live action with Gallagher, Kennison, Billy Crystal, and Bobcat Goldthwait?
Yep, it was true. That was actually that was a full-on proposal that we got. And I know of, Peter and I have it somewhere in the archives, a treatment of that, and we'd have to dig it out just to put it out for fans. But it was a very serious.
Please do. I would love to read that.
It was his New World Pictures, I think, was the company that he was.
Yeah, that's at that time. Yeah,
Yeah, but it was they were Gallagher and Sam Kennison and Bobcat Goldthwait, and they're going to wear like green paint, just have shells on and crack jokes, and they were fighting these roller skating ninja nuns and there was some other really insane classic Corman B-movie stuff in there that, Peter and I just looked at it and, laughed out loud like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing we ever heard. But that was that was the first attempt, and we said, no thanks.
any possibility just for capricious laughs to adapt that into a graphic form?
Oh my, that would be awesome. That's pretty funny. We could do it like as a what if kind of story.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dark Horse right now, they're doing those alternate early versions of Aliens from discarded scripts, and they're adapting them. So,
hey,
maybe food for thoughts. All right, good. I will say this much: the first movie, I absolutely hold as easily in the top 10 of comic book adaptation movies. And again, we're keeping extremely strong to the spirit. I went with a bunch of SVA guys. We're all comic book dudes. It's like, okay, this is gonna be wow. Yeah, we all walked away suitably entertained and again enthralled that it kept the tone. And so whatever you guys had to do with that, good job.
Well, fortunately, we are very lucky because, again, under the same circumstances that we had, control and approval. And we were blessed by three amazing characters. The first one was director Steve Barron. We met Steve, and he had already read and had really loved the edginess and the tonality and the attitude of the original black and white comic books. He was fully aware and embraced the younger version, and he wanted to come up with this world that melded both. So it's something for both, from the original fans and then the newer fans. And then Todd Langdon came in and wrote this script that was just, had all the humor, the heartfelt heart and soul that you want in that kind of story, that, can hit those emotional beats. And then, saving the best for last, Jim Henson came in because, that was the thing, if you see those characters on screen and you don't buy it, you don't believe it, then we've lost. And then Jim Henson just worked his incredible magic. And it also was, I put it in the perfect storm category, where we had such an incredible team that were respectful of the original property and wanted to do it right. And it was good. So it was not a lot of battles on that. It was it was a good team, and everybody wanted the best. So it was fantastic. That is it. Out of everything that's been done movie-wise and entertainment-wise, that's my pinnacle. That's the peak for me.
I would concur. Don't need to go into Vanilla Ice. What I would like to do, though, is talk about some of your non-turtle body work. You've been a publisher, and again, you really try to move the needle. You really try to elevate it, and you helped put a lot of really good work on the racks. And win, lose, or draw, I appreciate the first 2 issues of Big Numbers. I appreciate everything that you attempted, and so I ask this much: out of Mirage, Tundra, or Heavy Metal, what project are you most proud of that you had a hand in?
Well, even with Tundra, Tundra was this wonderful idea to create kind of an Apple Records for comics without the same ending, but I had basically the same ending as Apple Records in the early days. But it was most important to me is to put out the opportunity for creators that I admired so much to be able to have the chance to do something, create their own something that, when they say, well, I'm working on Spider-Man, I'm working on this, but I have this idea, that's my own idea, and I want to find a way to make it happen. And that was the concept of Tundra. So even though it failed, it still won, in my opinion, because it was something that, whether it's From Hell or Madman or The Crow or so many other wonderful projects, successful.
I was a big fan of the Jam.
I love that. I love that book. It was one of those. There was so many other little treasures like that. Thank you for bringing that up, because that was one of those things that it was some really fun stuff, and the timeliness, I think, of Tundra was just a little off. But that's what it was. But the history with heavy metal is, that was, for me, that was the gateway drug for 1977 when I bought the first issue off the newsstand. I was just kind of growing out of, Comic Code approved traditional American comics. Had not yet, there were no European comics or manga or anything besides underground comics. And then along comes heavy metal. And there you have it. You had the first issue had, Von Bodie and Corbin and Mobius and Belial. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So my tenure in ownership, I still own part of the company. I stepped back as publisher just 2 years ago, but I was publisher and editor from 1990 to mid 2000s, late 2000s.
That's about right. Yeah.
But it was I was just a steward, a vehicle to sort of like help pick some of the work that I thought was the best and introduce it to fans that might have never seen this material by these artists from all over the world. So heavy metal was just a gift, and even today it's a gift that keeps on giving, because it's a really a central location for some really wonderful material.
Absolutely. We have a few minutes left. What can you tell us about The Last Ronin?
Nothing.
Okay. No, that's fair. No, that's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair.
No,
but there is something coming up called The Last Ronin.
No, I'm kidding, of course.
Okay.
The wonderful part of our Last Ronin is, as I worked with the incredibly gifted and talented Tom Waltz, who wrote 100 issues of the Turtles, wrapping up, that last December. But Tom and I had been, that was part of the creative team, and I wrote a bunch of issues, and, we were the team, but Tom was the guy that did all the main writing. And as we were sort of heading to the end of that series, we were like, well, what would we like to do next? And I said, Pete and I wrote this idea in 1987. It was kind of like a Dark Knight-ish sort of turtle set 30 years in the future, unrelated to, say, any specific turtle universe, although it was set at that time specifically in the Mirage universe. And I said, what if we took this concept, which had a beginning, middle, and end? We had a full outline, and let's create it into that concept, a final turtle story, if you will. And this universe is not, especially now that when we wrote it in 1987, it would have originally, was set in 2017, which when we started working on it was 2 years prior. We started working on it in 2019. So it's a very personal story. It's a heartfelt story. It goes back to very specific things that Pete and I wrote in that time period of, the Turtles were basically born and raised for redemption, for vengeance. They were raised to basically kill Oroku Saki, and that was the sort of the basis in the pretense of all things Turtles that have evolved and happened since then. So we want to address all of those things, family love, the heart and soul, all the core elements, all the Turtles are there, and the redemption is there. The idea is there. But it's something written for the original fans and the older audience. So it's pretty heavy on the rough stuff. So it's even edgier than the original series. But Tom and I are having a blast. Like, literally, I am not kidding you that we've wrapped issue 1 yesterday. So it's off to press. So it's going to make it out on time. We had.
And what is on time? What's the date on that? Do you know?
October 28th is a drop date. We had a unfortunate instance with the fantastic and incredibly talented Andy Kuhn, who was the first artist that we brought on, who had to step away for a variety of personal reasons. But we've got the Escorzal brothers from Izek and Isu and Isaac from Mexico City. They're the new art team. Luis Delgado's doing the coloring. Me and Tom are doing the script on the layouts. But it's going to be 5 40-page issues. First one out in October, the second one in December, and then it's big bi-monthly after that. But they're going to be, it's a big 200-page story that is going to take it there and back again. It's pretty intense, and I'm pretty excited.
Outstanding. I'm really looking forward to that. And you finally made it to the big leagues, young man. You finally working for Marvel. Kingsized Conan, which is again another throwback to our use and special king-sized things, which I adored. You know.
Oh, dude, they're there. I got one of the few comic books that's hard to see. Stan Lee signed my Conan #1 that has been on my shelf since I was a kid, but it was a big thing. And my friend Mark Basso from Marvel called me last year and asked if I want to do a cover for the relaunch of Savage Sword of Conan, and I was like, yes. It's 30. Finally at age 56, I get to draw a cover for Marvel. Which was a dream when you were a kid. And then he furthered it as they wanted to go into do more of these short stories, collections, and things. Yeah. And so he invited me to do a 10-page story, which I've written and laid out. And that is literally over there. I'm starting penciling in on that this weekend. So and that'll be out in December. So it's pretty awesome. I don't care what you say. It's like we've had the greatest. I've had what I would say is like I have the greatest gift and the greatest career and the greatest life, and I've provided for my family thanks to the fans of drawing turtles all my life. But there's still that inner geek that's like, I'm working for Marvel. Oh. So anyway, so it's exciting in a super uber geeky way. And again, Conan was one of my favorites from back in the day.
Absolutely. What kind of neat stuff can we find on your webpage?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What kind of cool stuff can we find if we go to your webpage?
Oh, yeah. If you go to KevinEastmanStudios.com, it's sort of all news of what we're doing, where we're going. And like I said, hopefully we can revisit this schedule next year for conventions so you can find out where we're doing signings. But we also have a lot of, exclusive content. We've got a fan club section. You can join the fan club and you get discounts on everything and behind the scenes in the first shot at a lot of different things. We've got a mini auction site that we have a lot of fun with, finding rare items from my personal collection and things. But it's just sort of a gathering place. So
I never knew those Gay and Wilson cards existed.
Those are pretty awesome, right?
I'm gonna need to track down a set of those. So maybe next year, because you're talking about missing up the dates, and to our audience, if you enjoyed this chat with our esteemed guest, the Hero Connection and Comic-Con Africa will be bringing Mr. Kevin Eastman to Comic-Con Africa in 2021.
So yeah, we'll see you in Johannesburg next year.
Oh, is that where it's going to be next year? I love your shirt, by the way. I have to comment. That's such an awesome shirt, by the way.
It actually has your initials, E and L, right there for Eastman and Laird hidden in the shirt. So
that's so awesome.
Nice, Kevin. Before we go, any final words for our audience?
I guess it's one of those things that's hard to put into words because in that one of the favorite parts of our business, if you will, or our life for Courtney and I is not only do we get to do what we do, draw what we draw, and be part of this wonderful group of turtle fans with the turtle fans, is that we really miss the conventions. We really miss traveling. I can't tell you how excited we were to come to South Africa, had never been, to meet the fans there. And what's been so amazing, whether we've been to, St. Petersburg, Russia, or, New Zealand or Argentina, and everywhere we go, the fans are always the same. They're incredible. They're awesome. They're passionate. And, it's nice to thank them for giving us such a great life. So we want you all to be safe, remain to be safe, protect your loved ones, wear those masks, wash those hands. We need you alive so we can see you there next year, and just be safe and do the right thing. We can't wait to see you again.
Absolutely. Amen. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute delight.
My My pleasure, and had a really wonderful time with you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our audience for joining us. I believe this is the last of today's programming, Elliot. Is that correct?
Yeah, we should be headed back to the studio to see Robbie one last time. Hey, Robbie, you there?
Whoops. Well, you know what?
Oh, no,
it's
the shorter version of Robbie.
Well, short and slightly wider. Hey, guys, you know what? Kevin, how are you doing? Fantastic to see you again. Gentlemen.
Nice to see you again, my friend.
Now, you know what, gentlemen? That last discussion over there, the insight that you guys got over there, I've been a Turtles fan since I was much shorter, like somewhere there, just off camera, Elliot. And some of the stuff that you guys touched on blew my mind, and like all the other fans out there, I simply cannot wait. Like for a second I was looking at like the wrong spot, because when I see greatness like this on the screen, I get a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit anxious there, you know, because I mean look, one man has the shirt, right? One man has the hairdo, like yay. One day when I'm big, okay, now I can't take it off right now, this is still a family show, so we're not going to do any of that. And then of course there's the man, the myth, the legend himself, the father of the fandoms, at least in my case, Kevin Eastman. Guys, what a privilege, what a pleasure. Now, to all our fans out of there, you know what, you have witnessed greatness, but the fun doesn't end here. In as much as we have come to the end of Comic-Con Africa for day 2, that means we are, halfway there, still living on a prayer. I'm building up for karaoke slightly later tonight. But before we go all over there, do not forget that we still have our quiz night. Now, tonight is DC night, so I want to see all my DC fans popping out as well. Elliot, you like DC a little bit, right? A little bit, maybe? Huh? No? Mm-hmm. No, he's just judging. Yeah. No, that's not happening. Wrong crowd. Anyway, guys, we are going to have a rollicking time just now. Just remember, the quiz is absolutely free. We will pop the link in the YouTube comments just now, so you know that you need to follow us. We are going to have a blast in just a moment. Just going to prep up, loosen up a little bit, maybe get some accessories ready for you guys, and we will bring the thunder and do the thing shortly. I'll chat to you guys momentarily. Here we go.